thanks for taking the time to be here with us. We're just going to give everyone another about 30 seconds to settle in before we start discussing the topics. The event is set to run about 50 to 60 minutes, and at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. Today we're going to have two speakers, and probably we will start the event. Your time is really valuable for us, so let's get started. First off, once again, thank you everyone for joining us. And today we're going to discuss the topic from CEO and CMO series, fostering deeper collaboration across departments. Just, we are recording this webinar, and we'll make sure to send you a copy afterwards so you can revisit all the parts. So let me introduce you our speakers for today. We have, first up, we have Kristin Oelke. She's the CMO and Marketing Director at Brightrose Ventures. And our second speaker for this event will be Travis Ferguson. Travis is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Brightrose Incorporated. The key topics that we're going to explore today are the following. I'm going to explain them. So first one, how do you ensure your MarTech investments are strategically integrated across departments beyond just marketing? How do marketing and leadership transform data privacy regulations into strategic advantage, fostering customer trust and competitive contrast? How does your marketing strategy become a strategic partner that drives customer value across the entire customer journey, promoting trust and alignment beyond lead generation? And what critical investments do you prioritize in data infrastructure, analytics, talent, and data sharing to prepare for future market shifts? So without further ado, let's start with our first speaker. Kristin, please introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Terrific. Thank you, Sona. Thank you very much for inviting me to join. Travis, I'm thrilled to join you in this conversation. As Sona said, I work for Brightrose Ventures. I am the Managing Director of Growth Services. What we do is provide marketing transformation services to B2B technology companies, primarily software companies, companies that need to transform to perform. So they're either getting ready to scale or they've been in the market for a while and they need to pivot. I personally serve as CMO for several different businesses and provide them with the strategy. And then I have the execution teams on a fractional basis that deliver against those strategies. So I'm thrilled to discuss the topics here. Sona, do you want me to just start with my initial thoughts? How would you like to do
this?
Yes,
yeah, sure. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. Sona asked us to talk about those 4 topics that she introduced to you. So the first one here is really around, how we work, from my experience, how do we make MarTech investments, strategically integrated across departments beyond marketing? Like, how do we make those investments truly valuable to the organization? And what I talk about actually fairly often now with the emergence of all the AI tools in marketing, it's around integration starts with intentionality, not exploration. There's a ton of research that started to come out about 2 years ago when AI started to take off and all these tools, as marketers, we get contacted every day with, several new AI tools that we should take a look at. What happens, and this research is showing it around productivity, is that the productivity of your teams is decreasing because there's too much of this exploration going on and not simply focused on the core mission of the business. And so that's why I talk about intentionality. One of the things we recommend is that you actually model out what your go-to-market motion is, who and what tools are involved, and then rate it like red, green, yellow. How well is that performing? And then where you've got issues or challenges, start there and try to improve that. Because when you think about tools, most often they're meant to improve efficiency, right? And so where you've got blockers in your motion, that's where with intentionality you should really be looking, for where you can improve that. One of our clients, they weren't considering a new engagement platform, but instead of jumping right in and saying, okay, what is this new platform we should go out and spend all this money on? We hosted alignment workshops between sales, customer success, and marketing. So we got that conversation going. And what it surfaced actually were inconsistent handoffs. That isn't necessarily just buying a new tool that's going to solve that. So we focused on actually making the automation better within the existing platform that everybody already knew or had some levels of training with, and optimize that existing investment. So I would say for, the first topic you wanted us to cover around MarTech investments, don't get distracted by all of the great shiny things that are out there. They're amazing. But in the end, we get paid to deliver certain outcomes every quarter. And so I would say, really start to look at intentionality, not just exploration. For the second topic here, the second topic was really around, how do marketing and leadership transform data privacy regulations into a strategic advantage, fostering customer trust and competitive contrast? Okay, so this, in my opinion, this is where I believe marketing can truly lead. Privacy isn't just a legal mandate, it's a trust opportunity, and therefore it's a brand opportunity. And in fact, I wrote a book last year around this concept of eroding trust, and how it actually came about was because I had a client and we had top of funnel going really strong. We had a lot of those first meetings, but they weren't advancing the deals into the pipeline. And so I started to investigate it. And the core issue was that the business was so new, it hadn't built up a lot of customer success and proven past performance. And it didn't have analyst ratings. It didn't have, a portfolio of partners advocating for them. And so their public trust profile was actually not as strong as it needed to be. And therefore deals got stuck. They get interested. It was super intriguing, but that level of trust wasn't strong enough to actually close the deal. And so, what we look at is opportunities to really build out that public trust profile. Be very transparent about how you're working with their data and this is an opportunity to do that beyond just talking about your existing trust within the market. Also, then once they become a customer and a prospect, how you treat their data. Some of the things that we've looked at, a zero data resell policy, like you're going to maintain their data and do it with integrity. Like make sure that you're saying things like, will not sell your personal data to advertisers. How many times do we get contacted and we have no idea how they heard about us, right? So be upfront that you are doing what's right with their data, that they can trust you with that. For another client, we built out something called a data dignity charter. And that's where you're actually, in very plain language principles, you talk about how you collect and process and use the data, how you store their data, and be super transparent about that. The other things like making promises like we only collect data that we truly need, right? That we need to exchange in a professional business transaction. That's the only data that we're going to have. So, what I say is be super transparent, be authentic, over communicate, because the other thing, there's a lot, with my research for my book around the impact of AI on trust in business transactions, the skepticism level is increasing because buyers, whatever market you're in, if you're a business buyer, a consumer buyer, skepticism is only increasing because you're like, is it AI? Is that really who they are? Is it authentic? Can I believe in them? So really be as transparent, authentic, and over communicate as much as you can. So that's two of the topics. The third topic then was around, let's see here, how does your marketing strategy become a strategic partner that drives customer value across the entire customer journey, promoting trust and alignment beyond lead generation? So these two questions in my mind when I was thinking through them just beautifully dovetail, because this is really where this concept of public trust comes out even more, right? You need to make sure that it's not just that top of funnel that I referenced, right? To get customers to buy from you and stay with you and buy more from you over a long period of time, that is a relationship. And what do we know about relationships that are good and healthy? There is solid trust between them. And that is absolutely in a professional sense as well. And so you need to make sure that when you go through, like when I talked about that model in the beginning of what your whole motion is, right? Not only should you be looking at the tools, which was the first topic of today, but looking at how you are injecting trust, right? Are the people that you have representing your organization knowledgeable? Can they beautifully articulate and represent your business in the way that you want to build trust in your relationship and your reputation, right? Sometimes it comes down to simply as we put people in jobs and expect them to know how to do it without training them. Right before this call, we were all just chatting, and it was around the innovation cycles and the evolution. Like, I learn every day so many new things, and frankly, that's why I love the profession I'm in. But the idea that you have someone who has not the 3 decades of experience that I do, but they're coming out and they don't have that what I call a library of experiences to draw upon to navigate the ambiguity and understand how to be a top performer, right? When you put a non-top performer or a low non-trained performer in front of a customer, it goes back to this trust, because the prospect and the buyer will likely trust you less because they don't believe that that person is going to deliver what your company is promising or what they need to get value from your organization. So what I always talk about is credibility in online, offline platforms, and really show from a marketing perspective, that credibility through all of those channels. And that will build that trust way beyond lead generation. So then the fourth topic here, let me keep an eye on time here. The fourth topic here, I'll go through rather quickly. Critical investments do you prioritize in data infrastructure, analytics, talent, and data sharing to prepare for future market shifts? The number one reason why when we work with businesses that are struggling, that they're challenged, is because they lose their focus. So the first thing I would say is be focused. Make sure that you know what you're trying to get done. And in this case, when you talk about infrastructure, data infrastructure and analytics, everybody's talking about AI, but it goes back to one of the earlier part of my conversation. We're spending a lot of time trying to solve a problem that may not be a problem. And so, that's a wasted investment from a time perspective. And often the most expensive line item in any expense line item in any business is their talent or headcount expense. And so you're just wasting that person's time, your staff time, on something that doesn't matter to the business. So as an example, we had one client who they were looking at a new platform because they wanted to leverage all the AI. And frankly, they spent a lot of time with having different people look into it. They did demos, they did pilots. And in fact, they just didn't have the right single expert that knew how to drive this and own it and integrate it. And we have a analytics operations person in our fractional teams that looks at that, right? That's all they do. They're not trying to do campaigns. They're not trying to do executive communications, PR, social, any of that. They are an expert in that space. And so what I would recommend is, if you are really looking to leverage the power of AI, which is really about having an amazing data foundation that's super healthy, robust, and indicative of your business, make sure you've got the right person, even if it's just on a fractional basis, that knows that. Don't assume you're taking someone in another part of your organization who is not an expert in this space and is not current and modern in making the most of that data that you've now worked on. optimized so that it will perform for your business. And the last thing I just wanted to wrap up for all my thing is that,
Yes,
and
it's okay.
is about tech just keeps evolving, right? And it's super exciting. And if you haven't been, digging into it, I would recommend that you do. Forums like this, Sona's conversations, tune into these when you're working out or making dinner. And that's a great way to stay abreast of what's coming in down the funnel that can help you with your business.
Thank you, Kristin, very much. Thank you for being so passionate and for such valuable information that you shared with us. And now it's a time for our second speaker, Travis. Please, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sonia, for having me on. And Kristin, very, very insightful. I'm not sure I've got anything close to that. Really, really insightful on the 4 questions and kind of going through it. I'm probably going to regurgitate some of that and kind of going through that piece of it, but it's a unique opportunity to kind of be here. I'm more on the marketing and sales side of looking at these questions and kind of going through these, but to kind of go through this, and I do dabble on the IT side, but I'm Travis Ferguson, VP of Sales and Marketing, do a little bit of everything for Rugged Wear, which is a market leader and trend center on the concealed carry bag side with 2 brands, Chameleon Bags and Smith & Wesson Leather. Also the executive director of East Tennessee Kidney Foundation, and then my own company, Lead Narrow Media, which helps brands on the marketing and sales side and IT side in the outdoor industry. So a little bit about myself, but kind of get into these questions, which brings up some unique challenges for large companies, small companies, and mid-sized companies, which I tend to work more with the small and mid-sized companies. But getting to number 1, how do you ensure your MarTech investments are strategically integrated across departments beyond just marketing? And since I typically evolve and work with marketing more so than ever, what I typically find is if you don't align your tools and your MarTech tools, business-wide KPIs, and not just your marketing efforts, try to make sure you're involving those cross-functional leaders, your sales managers, your customer service managers, your product managers early on in those decision criteria, and choose platforms that have open APIs and share dashboards. If those companies have those abilities to do that, to improve that collaboration efforts across the board. Mistakes are typically made there. And if you don't have that open line of communication when you're going through decisions like that, you're destined to fail. You truly are. And it's easy to overlook it. And I see it all the time in marketing. We have defined sets of KPIs in marketing, and it seems like we always do, and sales does too. But you don't always see that sometimes. So I find good measurable pieces for us are to typically try to be proactive in holding cross-functional workshops and map out how each team is using some of these tools and platforms that are, open to integrations in what we're trying to do. And I'll use Shopify as a prime example of what we're trying to do that help each department, from a small business and mid-sized business platform perspective of how each of these apps that we're using help each department within the organization for what we're doing. And since we typically, the companies that I work with are shipping products out the door, those are prime examples of how we're using these tools that help each department within the organization. So those are ways that we kind of look at regularly, trying to revisit our integrations and ensure the effectiveness of these tools that align with our business objectives of what we're trying to do within these organizations, at least the ones that I'm working with and have worked with over the course of decades. And Kristin, you can appreciate the fact that I've got decades underneath my belt too, because there's a lot of gray in my beard in what I'm doing also. So, but looking at that overall and looking at it, people get locked into just what we're trying to do on the marketing side. And if you're not cross-functional across every department, then you're missing the boat. You truly are. So number two, how do marketing and leadership transform data privacy regulations into a strategic advantage, fostering customer trust and competitive contrast? Kristin, you stole my thunder. It's about transparency. It's about transparency. And if it's not about it, you're missing the boat. So you're hearing it from two different people today. And if you don't take that away from what you're listening to today, then shame on you, because we're both telling you the exact same thing in this. If you're not clearly communicating how to protect your user data, then shame on you, because when your competitors are cutting corners, your ethical stance can become a competitive advantage for what you're trying to do. And you made some great points in that, Kristin, and what you were saying. If you're openly honest about what you're doing in that stance, especially on the email marketing side and the ESP side, and what you're using that data for, and being upfront about it, you're going to gain trust. And ultimately it ties into all four of these questions and how you're using that data. So, I could go on and on about, make privacy a part of your brand story if you need to. Showcase your ethical stance, especially in markets where competitors might cut corners. It builds trust. It provides a clear competitive differential in what you're doing, increasing privacy conscious markets and what you're looking at. You can just keep building upon that story, not just one time. You can make this a campaign if you need to, and looking at it. So if you've not thought about it from a marketing perspective, and if you've not looked at it, it's something I encourage you to try to do. It's always something that from a marketing perspective, you're afraid to touch, you're afraid to look at, you're afraid to kind of go through and say, hey, I don't want to talk about it. We just want to get it, and we want to keep it, and we want to keep it close to the vest. It truly is an advantage that you've got if you're talking about it and being upfront and open with what you're doing with it. So number three, how does your market strategy become a strategic partner that drives customer value across the entire customer journey, promoting trust and alignment beyond lead generation? Position marketing as a value amplifier, not just a lead engine. Share insights across the board, and marketing gets a bad rap. We always do, it seems like. But if you're sharing insights and with sales, product, customer service success, to co-own that customer journey and what you're trying to do, and you're investing in the life cycle of marketing, personalization, post-purchase engagement, and supporting this long-term journey, you have a great opportunity in front of you in what you're trying to do with this. Lead generation can truly evolve in this standpoint, in what you're looking at and what you're trying to do. People have different stances on how you look at that sometimes. I've gone both ways with different companies and how you're looking at that. Taking ownership of that customer value beyond the initial acquisition of what you're doing. Marketing can take a deeper dive into loyalty, stronger trust. Goes back to number two, and that transparency of what you're trying to do there. But building stronger trust to higher lifetime customer value of what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective. So I could dive deeper and go on well past 10 to 15 minutes into that subject, truly. But I'm not going to today. Number four, what critical investments do you prioritize in data infrastructure, analytics talents, data sharing, prepare for future market shifts? We did touch on it earlier. This market is changing so fast that I said it earlier. Once you get comfortable, you breathe a little bit, and suddenly you're not comfortable anymore. You're just not. You're not comfortable. The second you feel like you are, you're not comfortable anymore. But she did touch on something that we all need to be aware of, is that if you're not investing in talent as an organization, and your own internal talent, cross-training analytics who understand both data and business strategy within your own organization, then you're missing the boat. You really are. And talent is leaving constantly. Data sharing, clean pipelines between systems, and sharing organization. And we have a tendency, I know we had some sayings at UPS. I started my career at UPS. We had silos, and you stayed in your silo and you stayed in your lane, and we never shared data. And organizations have made such major changes from those days, and I won't go back and tell you how long ago that was, but organizations have made major jumps being able to share data across different platforms and what we're doing. So continue to keep doing that across your platforms and what you're doing. The last thing, infrastructure, and Kristin can speak to that a lot more than I can, but the second you feel like you've got everything covered, AI seems to change everything. And we all feel like AI is replacing everything, when maybe that's not truly the issue. And AI is going to replace my job here, going to replace this here. I know it's changed my life completely, and what I'm doing every day, and in my job and my roles and what I do for the different organizations that I work with every day. But ultimately, all it's done is help me do my job a little bit better. So, the investments and going back into that data infrastructure, if it doesn't start the talent and people behind that piece of it, it doesn't matter what you have. It really doesn't matter. So there's my 2 cents on these 4 questions and what you're doing.
Okay. Thank you very much, Travis, for everything that you've said and all the insights that you shared with us. And I wanted to say I really appreciate what you're doing there with your foundation.
Thank you.
It's great what you do. It's really important. So now we have received some really interesting questions. If you don't mind, I will start reading them.
Okay.
So the first one, you both spoke about transparency, and I'm curious, is there any specific example of how your organizations have actively leveraged the data privacy regulations to build a new competitive advantage? This question is from Shane Blade. So please, the floor is yours. You can answer the questions. We can start with Kristin, if it's okay.
Sure. Well, thanks, Shane, for the question. It's always great. I've been, as a marketer, I've been on so many sessions like this. We love it when people ask questions. So yes. Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah.
My example here would really be around GDPR, because it's probably a friend of mine. Recently, I've had a client that focuses on the UK market. Very strict GDPR guidelines, enterprise B2B. And in fact, some of their targets, their ICP, were actually experts in this. So you even have a higher degree of sensitivity about making sure you get compliance with GDPR accurately. And so what we did is actually bring to the forefront, and I kind of mentioned it in my comments, we brought to the forefront our processes around how we are GDPR compliant. And so that was, we armed all of our salespeople. Our emails at the bottom had a reference to it. Obviously, our site had some great information. Our outbound callers, our SDR team, everything they sent out talked about it. Because we did actually have some of those experts reach back and say, how did you get our name? And how are you managing? And they were like testing us, right? Mm-hmm. And so we had to be ready. And so I would say that is one example of how we turned it into a competitive advantage, because their trust level with that business went up, because not only did we have it in place, all of our externally facing team members could speak to it.
Thank you, Kristin. And now, please, Travis, could you comment to the question?
We've done something similar. Typically, we're working within the states, in the United States, and what we're doing. We've done some of that, typically in email blasts, and making sure that we're communicating some of that process of, hey, how did you hear about us? What would you like to hear in the future from us? Making sure we're giving them the option. Would you like to stay connected? What would you like to hear from us before or in the next email? Would you like to stay on our list? Would you like to get out? Making sure we're giving them the option to stay involved with what we're doing and what we're sending to them. And that's clear communication to them that we have your data, that we're communicating to them that we're giving you the option to get out, not just at the bottom of an email blast to say you can unsubscribe, which everybody's got and everybody has to have, but we're giving them the option to say you can get out anytime you want to, not just go all the way down to the bottom and get out and then go to the site and unsubscribe and then hope it works. We're giving you an option within the email blast to say, hey, here's some options. Here are some options to say, we'd like to just stay on once a month, once a week, once every 6 weeks. We'd like to see this. We're openly trying to get some data from our customers to say, this is what we'd like to see more. It's not from this company, but it was from a previous company. But getting that kind of open line communication really lets them kind of go through and say, hey, we're open about having this information and clearly being transparent about what we were trying to do there.
Thank you very much. You both are bringing really important points. So next question is specifically for Kristin. It's from Arpina Rukasian. She's asking, you mentioned that in some cases, trying to catch up with AI is becoming a waste of time instead of providing value. Knowing this, what's your most impactful future-proofing, data investment and why?
Great question. Love the concept of future-proofing. That kind of goes to this constant race we are all having, trying to make sure that we stay current on what can make us most valuable to the organizations we serve. Right now, I would say it's absolutely a unified data foundation. And when I say that, it isn't just, the volume and quantitative data, it's the qualitative data too. And that qualitative data is around, customer conversations, partner conversations, because when you start to put the AI layer on whatever tool you're testing and trying to figure out is the right thing, if you have all that data, quantitative and qualitative, in a unified data repository, you can then really optimize the value of the tools that you're testing, because the AI tools are trying to give you insights. They're trying to create better quality content. They're trying to, give you better analytics. But if you don't have all of the data in there from all of the sources in your business, you're getting a limited value or limited view of the work that the AI tool is doing. The other thing that I would say to that too is the one model that I've seen most effective for this is when you've got someone in the business or your organization, if you're a nonprofit, that owns that architecture, right? The unified data architecture, but the experimentation that, we talk about that you could waste time, that's owned by the business owner. So it's deciding on what kind of tools, what capabilities you need, but it's that partnership, right? To make sure that the architecture of the whole business is integrated and optimized, right? Because the other thing too, you get a lot of cost expense waste besides time expense waste if you don't have someone looking at it holistically. So it's a partnership between the business units or the business leaders and that whoever owns the overall architecture of that unified data foundation.
Thank you very much, Kristin. Travis, you're also free to comment or answer the questions if you would like.
She's using AI a heck of a lot more than what I'm using it. I mean, I'm using it more for social media and for marketing and grant writing and looking at things than what we're using it for. So it truly is. I don't think we've scratched the surface on its true capabilities and what we're doing with it right now. But you know, the future proofing of that data investment and what it could be used for, you know, a large company, I can only imagine. I mean, truly, I can only imagine what it truly could be used for. So future proofing something like that, I can only imagine. So.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. And now the next question regarding cross-departmental MarTech integration. What is one non-obvious organizational barrier you've encountered when you're trying to achieve true strategic integration, and how we can solve those ones? So you're free to start. Probably this time, maybe Travis, you would start.
People. it's typically people. I'm sorry. It's you can put things in place sometimes and have the best ideas and the best plan to paper and the best plan to laptop and truly go through things, and it's non-obvious, but if you don't get buy-in from people and from talent you've got around people, that's a key sometimes, and it's not obvious. It truly is. So that's a buy-in, and it's a buy-in early on, that you have to have people involved in this thing. And so understand that. And IT, marketing, sales, if you don't have people involved with decision criteria and what you're trying to do, bring them in to meetings, bring them in to what you're trying to do across the board and what you're doing with this piece of it. And like I said, business-wide KPIs, I'm a big believer in, because we're all held accountable for what we're trying to do. And if we're all on the same page and looking at that piece of it, then, hey, if this decision is going to help everybody, we're going to hurt everybody, then we're all in the same boat and we're all rowing the same direction, or we're all rowing backwards, one or the other.
Yeah, I can see that Mike agrees with you. He was the one who asked the question, so thank you, Travis.
Sorry, it's one that just comes to mind, because I mean, it doesn't matter sometimes. And sorry, Kristin, I mean, I've seen some really great plans in what you're trying to do with MarTech investments, and you get it, you see it, you put it up on the board, you put it up on a whiteboard, and you're like, this is going to be great. This is going to save us time. This is going to save us money. Things are going to operate better. Customers are going to be happy. Customer service is going to be happy. We're going to sell more. We're going to have better bonuses. We're all going to get paid better. Everything's going to work. And then one department's not happy. And it's customer service, it's sales, it's marketing. One department's not happy and one department's not on board. And then suddenly that department derails the whole thing. And it's happened, and it's happened more than once. And get the buy-in. Just get the buy-in.
Okay. Thank you very much, Travis. And now, Kristin, please, what are your thoughts on this question?
Not only Mike agrees with you, I agree with you, Travis, but it's from like another kind of bit of an angle. When I was thinking about my answer for the question, how I thought about it was ulterior motives, right? That the people either have experience with another tool that they don't want to go learn a new tool, like one CRM they really had perfected how to use, and you introduce another CRM and they're like, I don't want to learn it, and so they kind of passive aggressive, they don't want to do it. Or I've even seen it too, where there's been, personal buys, like your wife, your friend, whoever is selling some kind of competitive tool and they want to influence it from that reason. It can be a variety of a lot of it though, I think has to do with training. You might not even have the training budget, so people also aren't going to go out and self-educate. I think that, when I think about these MarTech investments, the biggest change I've seen over my career is, and I was just chatting with somebody the other day about this, when I was with one of the big first tech companies. I'm grateful to this day that I got to start there, but they invested incredibly in training. And what we were able to do was, you could take a couple days out of your standard schedule and learn new things. And sometimes it would be tools, sometimes it would be about the products, right? But a lot now, because the innovation cycles are so fast, like by the time you get those training things scheduled, you execute on them and you start to use it, then you're trying to test out something new again, right? And so this concept of constant self-education, I think is a topic that, we really need to embrace, and we need to figure out how for each of ourselves, if you're a runner, like podcasts are great. I'm not a runner. I do aerobics. Like I can't do the music and the podcast at the same, like it doesn't work. And so I've got to figure out like where I do my self-education. But I think everybody's got to figure that out, because for these MarTech investments, learning about them is not going to be a set aside in your daily work schedule anymore for you to stay current.
Yeah, it's change. The fear of change is that number one piece, I think, and regardless of what it focuses around, whether it's CRM or a personal change, whatever that is, when it comes to that question and what it focuses around, it's that change that you have to kind of focus around. And as a decision maker, you've got to have that buy-in and understand that this may look great, and what you're trying to do, it is something that you've got to take in consideration, because you're making a big purchase, you're going through this, and I hate saying it, but your rear end's on the line for this thing and what you're doing for your organization, and you've got to have buy-in. So you're doing this piece and you're saying, okay, this is the decision I'm making, and Kristin knows very well about what's going on with this side of it, but you've got to take that personal side of it too and say, okay, who's going to fight this change? Who's going to go through this piece of it? Where's my buy-in going to be? What department? Who's going to affect the most? So anyway, great question, Mike.
Thank you very much. Thank you to both of you. And I'm having like this kind of discussions with a lot of marketing specialists, and it always comes to this part that you mentioned about staying flexible, about self-education, and like being aware of everything that's going around. It's the only way to stay ahead and to stay on the top. Thank you very much to both of you. This was an amazing session. I hope you enjoyed it, because I did.
Yes.
And once again, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone to like in our audience as well for the great questions. And we truly appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. So this is a regular event process that we have every couple of weeks, and so you can stay tuned for the next event for new updates. And once again, thank you everyone for being here, and I'm looking forward to see you again.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate the opportunity, Kristin. It was wonderful to meet you, and learned a lot from your 4 answers. So thank you.
Likewise, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye.